Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Whitney Van Laningham, and with the Oscars fast approaching, I wanted to break down one of the animated nominees for Best Picture, Golden Globe Award-winning Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio. Although the story of the little wooden puppet who longed to become a real boy has been adapted and retold many times, I was most familiar with the 1940s Disney movie before checking out Del Toro's reimagination. Unlike that version, however, this iteration of Pinocchio isn't for children. This story beautifully incorporates themes of life, death, and love while simultaneously giving the finger to fascism. So today, I'm breaking down all the Easter eggs and details you might have missed in Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Pinocchio was originally written in the early 1800s by an Italian author named Carlo Collodi, and went on to become the third most translated book in the world, as well as the first piece of Italian children's literature to achieve international fame. At the time of its writing, the industrialization of Italy called for a story that encouraged its readers to adhere to structure and become part of the reliable labor force. Collodi often used Pinocchio's adventures to chastise him, and therefore his readers, for engaging in too much frivolous fun and rejecting responsibility. The 1940s Disney version had a similar message. If Pinocchio wanted to become a real boy, he had to learn to become brave, honest, and unselfish. Now, I don't know about you guys, but after watching Pinocchio when I was a kid, I was terrified that if I goofed off, I'd be taken to an island and forced to get drunk and smoke cigars and turn into a donkey while my mom was trapped inside of a whale. But Del Toro saw a different vision for this movie, deciding to flip the narrative that children must be well-behaved to be seen as real. Instead of using this beloved character to show the viewer that they need to change themselves in order to be accepted, Del Toro told Den of Geek in an interview that, quote, "I always wanted to make it about disobedience and not changing in a way. I knew I wanted him to stand his own ground." He also said he celebrates disobedience as a virtue and celebrates not being changed to be loved. Del Toro's Pinocchio is less about Pinocchio's fatal flaws and more about the flawed way that the world tends to operate. He also added in the interview that the movie is not about Pinocchio learning to be a real boy, but Geppetto learning to be a real father. The film opens up with an image of a pine cone. Not only does Pinocchio mean pine nut in the Tuscan Italian dialect, but the pine cone itself becomes a common symbol throughout the story. Historically, pine cones have been known to be symbols of immortality, spirituality, and regeneration. Del Toro's Pinocchio plays with each of these themes both in metaphor and in the literal sense, with Pinocchio being an immortal being throughout the story. During the opening act, set in 1916 Italy, Geppetto urges his son Carlo to find the perfect pine cone, tossing out an imperfect cone. This is the first we see of Geppetto's own flaw of being a perfectionist, and his arc throughout the film has him learning to accept Pinocchio for the imperfect boy that he is. Carlo, on the other hand, is seemingly the perfect son. If you didn't catch it yet, he's named after Pinocchio's original author, Carlo Collodi. As we start to get a glimpse at Carlo and Geppetto's life together in the opening number, My Son, we can see three prominent puppets that foreshadow characters later on in the film: the monkey for Spazzatura, the knight for the Podesta, and the fox for the tricky charlatan Count Volpe. If you take a look at Geppetto's woodworking station, the window behind it looks pretty similar to the window at Giles's art station in Del Toro's The Shape of Water. Geppetto is tasked with building a new crucifix for the local church, and of course, Carlo is by his side for the initial build. Their version of Christ on the cross looks just like the crucifix from Del Toro's 2001 film The Devil's Backbone. If you look closely at the stained glass windows, you can also see Easter eggs for Del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth, the Faun, and the Pale Man. Del Toro actually views Pinocchio as part of a trilogy with these films, as they're all films that explore dark, fantastical childhood adventures during wartime. The stained glass windows also feature a continuation of the pinecone motif and a falling dove shaped like a bomb, foreshadowing the bombing at the end of this scene. Between the stained glass, we can also see an illustration of an angel that looks like the wood sprite we meet later on in the film. Unfortunately, Carlo is killed when Austro-Hungarian forces flying above Italy drop a bomb on their church. The way that this bomb is featured and dropped is modeled after the bombing scene of The Devil's Backbone. In earlier drafts of the movie, Carlo was instead killed by a firing squad, but due to pacing, Del Toro swapped this death with a bombing. Geppetto is nearly destroyed by his grief, and plants the pine cone his son was holding when he died near his carefully tended grave. At the bottom of the tombstone, you can see two rabbits on either side of a pine cone. Later in the film, we learn that rabbits escort your soul into the afterlife. The story fast forwards roughly 20-ish years to the late 30s, early 40s, where Benito Mussolini's fascist rule has warped Italy. A colorful mural that previously advertised a bountiful harvest festival now has been painted over in black and white with the fascist slogan, "Believe, Obey, Fight." The tower's blacksmith, who once admired Geppetto's fatherhood, is now the town's Podesta, essentially a mayor with full authoritarian power. This bleak reality reflects Geppetto's internal despair without his son, and sets up a world begging to be disobeyed. Sebastian J. Cricket makes his home in the pine tree grown from Carlo's pine cone. Inside, he hangs a portrait of Arthur Schopenhauer, a pessimistic German philosopher. Sebastian J. Cricket shares Schopenhauer's philosophy that life is filled with inescapable pain, and the best that one can do is simply reduce it. In a drunken rage, Geppetto carves a wooden boy out of the tree. Here, we see the pine cone's immortality. Carlo's death inspired his father to plant the seed, which grew into a pine tree, which became Sebastian J. Cricket's home, which was then cut down and made into a puppet. As Geppetto himself tells Carlo in the movie, when one life is lost, another must grow. In a Netflix promo video, Del Toro tells us that Pinocchio's janky look was intentional, saying, "We made him asymmetrical because Geppetto carves him when he's drunk." And one of the ideas is that he starts with the ear and this hair, and he's really careful with that, and then he goes, and kind of just finishes him quick. Taking care of yourself is important, so good thing Geology makes it easy to do. Geology is a 16-time award-winning personalized skincare company recognized in Hypebeast, Birdie, Men's Health, Esquire, and Ask Men Grooming Awards, with over 6,000 5-star reviews. Just take a quick 30-second diagnostic quiz, and Geology will create a simple and effective skincare or hair care routine customized just for you, with ingredients that are dermatologist tested, proven to work, and personalized to your needs. For hair care, Geology's got strengthening shampoo and conditioner and co-wash, which will transform your routine and deliver the best hair of your life. It extends the time between washes and replaces the need for so many products, so you wash your hair less and save money more. They also offer body washes and deodorants that are free of harsh ingredients and smell great. For skincare, they have you covered from all angles. Fight acne, reduce oiliness, prevent wrinkles, combat dark or puffy under eyes, have smoother hydrated skin, and target signs of aging. Their daily personalized skincare routine comes with 2 face washes, morning face cream, retinol night cream, and eye cream. And right now, for a limited time, you can get a 5-piece trial set for only $15 if you use code ROCKSTARS70 at checkout. That's over $150 of product for just $15. On top of that, you can take an additional 30% bonus offer on one of their brand new skin, hair, or body products of your choice when you add it to your trial. To get started, just click the link in the description. One of my favorite creature designs from this movie is that of the wood sprite and her phantom trail of glowing eyeballs. Putting eyeballs where they're definitely not supposed to be is a Guillermo Del Toro special, and the wood sprite and her sister Death are no different. Their character designs are inspired by the Angel of Death from Hellboy, whose wings were also decked out in eyeballs. The wood sprite's design is also a nod to the biblical description of angels, while Death draws her design from the mythical chimera. When Pinocchio walks into the church for the first time, you'll notice that Jesus' left arm was destroyed when the bomb hits. Towards the end of the film, after surviving his encounter with a dogfish, Pinocchio also loses his left arm, symbolizing the sacrifice he made for his father. After scaring the shit out of a bunch of Catholics, a priest, the Podesta, and his son Candlewick show up at Geppetto's home, demanding answers. Geppetto instructs his son to warm his feet by the fire, but Pinocchio gets carried away, accidentally burning his feet off. This is actually a reference to a really dark scene in Carlo Collodi's book, where Pinocchio is too exhausted to realize that his feet have burned to ash. Candlewick's name is another direct pull from the original fairy tale. His name, Lucignolo, translates to lampwick or candlewick in Italian. In Disney's adaptation, the character goes by Lampwick. Father and son head into town the next day, where they see a sign for the circus, and instead of following his father's orders and heading to school, Pinocchio ends up joining the carnival. The way that this carnival is set up also reminds me of scenes from Del Toro's Nightmare Alley, which was clearly an inspiration for the design of this world. Its owner, Volpe, is a conniving trickster, much like his character's Disney counterpart, Honest John the Swindling Fox. His name is Italian for fox, he carries a cane topped with a fox head, and his hair even looks sorta like fox ears. And check out the nose on this guy. That thing is so long, the audience can tell instantly that this dude is a liar McLiarson. In addition to being an adaptation of the fox, Volpe also incorporates the characteristics and role of the ringmaster. Most upsettingly, Volpe treats Spazzatura like trash. Literally. The name Spazzatura is Italian for garbage, and it's clear from the 3 severed monkey heads hanging on Volpe's trailer wall that Spazzatura wasn't his first primate assistant. Sebastian J. Cricket tries to tell Pinocchio not to go with Count Volpe, but his curiosity gets the better of him. Check out the cricket talking to Pinocchio on his shoulder. For scenes like this where Sebastian needed to speak to his wooden friend up close, the animators created extra-large models of Pinocchio's head with normal-sized cricket puppets to film their conversations. Likewise, Sebastian was made large for certain scenes, while Pinocchio was made smaller. In artist Gris Grimley's initial drawings for these characters, he made notes that although Pinocchio's head could change sizes, it could never change shape to maintain his wooden appearance. Volpe introduces his puppets to Pinocchio: Il Diavolo, Colombina, and Punchinello. Obviously, the first is a caricature of the devil. Colombina is a stock character in many of Italy's Commedia dell'arte, aka Italian comedy theater productions, often depicted as a sex worker, a slave, or a wife/mistress. Punchinello is an equally famous character in Italian puppet theater, his first appearance dating all the way back to the 1660s. He's usually shown as a short, stout clown who behaves ridiculously, and was the inspiration behind Punch of the Punch and Judy puppet series. After being chastised by his father for performing in the circus instead of going to school, Pinocchio is hit by the Podesta's car. In the afterlife, 4 rabbits carry his coffin, and when they go to punch his ticket, the card punching system is the same as the one from The Shape of Water. When Pinocchio visits Death, you'll notice that her serpent tail is designed to look like the scales of a pine cone. Also, her use of sand hourglasses is a nod to the one used by Ophelia as she faced down the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth. Death explains that Pinocchio cannot die, and therefore can never be a real boy, that humanity is special because each of our lives are fleeting. After Geppetto says some harsh words to his reborn wooden son, Pinocchio decides to run away with the carnival to make money to send to his father. He leaves a note with a smiling sun for his dad to find, and traps Sebastian J. Cricket in a glass on top of it, placing a hammer atop the glass to prevent his bug friend from stopping him. Although Sebastian manages to break free, he gets squished by the hammer's handle. This is another nod to the original Pinocchio story, where Pinocchio actually kills the cricket with a hammer in a fit of rage. Don't worry, he lives a long, buggy life in this movie though. Pinocchio travels across Italy performing in support of Il Duce, aka Mussolini. Geppetto and Sebastian follow them, always just a city or two behind, until Geppetto manages to convince a fisherman to sail him to his son. But he and Sebastian are both swallowed by a monstrous dogfish. The book's 5-story large dogfish has been interpreted and adapted in many different ways. Sometimes it's a shark or an orca or a sperm whale like Disney's Monstro. Del Toro's dogfish incorporates elements of a grotesque anglerfish. When Mussolini himself arrives at the carnival to catch a show, he pulls up in a long red car, just like this classic scene from Tom and Jerry, and Boots the cat rolls up in the same style vehicle. This long-ass car gag has appeared countless times in cartoons, but Tom and Jerry's my favorite. This car's ridiculous size, juxtaposed with the dictator's stature, spoofs on Mussolini's ego and pokes fun at his regime, embracing the authoritarian Superman. Pinocchio performs a rendition of his usual act with a twist. The entire song is about poop, and you know this dictator sucks because only fascists refuse to giggle at fart jokes. The poster of Mussolini that the puppets defaced now reads Sua Escremenza Puzzolini, which is a play on the phrase Sua Eccellenza, which means His Excellency in Italian. Puzzo translates to stinky, so here Pinocchio is basically calling him His Poopy Excellency, Musmelini. After being shot by one of the dictator's men, Pinocchio awakens from death in the back of the Podesta's truck, carrying other future soldiers to training camp. The boys' dormitories are modeled to look just like the ones from The Devil's Backbone. Candlewick's rebellion against his father and the subsequent attack on the center allow Pinocchio to escape, and Spazzatura rescues him before he's burned alive at the stake by Count Volpe. Pinocchio and Spazzatura flee to sea, where they're also swallowed by the dogfish and reunited with Geppetto and Sebastian. The four are able to escape the belly of the beast through the monster's blowhole. In the Disney version, they escape through Monstro's mouth by making him sneeze. And unlike Disney's Pinocchio, Del Toro's wooden boy sets off a mine in the dogfish's mouth. This time when Pinocchio visits Death, she informs him that if he wants to save his father from drowning, he must become a real boy and will die himself. Pinocchio sacrifices his life for his father. This time when the wood sprite appears, Sebastian uses his one wish to bring Geppetto's son back to life. When Pinocchio wakes up from death once again, his papa admits that he finally accepts him for exactly the way he is. Although Pinocchio lives forever, he has to watch each of his loved ones die before him. When Sebastian J. Cricket passes on, he places him inside of a matchbox and stores the matchbox inside of his wooden body close to his heart. The hole where Pinocchio places his body is the same hole that Sebastian first entered his lovely tree home. The final shot of the movie is that of a single pine cone falling from a branch, symbolizing another death that leads to a new beginning. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Whitney Puppy, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love, and thanks for watching. Bye!